When Meg and I were in grad school together, something that was so amazing to me was how fearlessly she spoke. Her voice just burns divine beauty back into every heart that hears it. Or for me in grad school, whenever a professor would call on me because I never raised my hand, I would blush and mumble and stumble something pretty incoherently. Now, why I'm saying this is because of the way Meg would look at me. When I was so awkward and trying desperately to find my unique voice, there would be this just fiercely loving gaze. And it pretty much told me, she would go to town for my squeaks and beeps and incoherent sentences, like that one, that she would guard my weak voice with her life. And it's that sort of amazing, fierce love that to me is an essential feminine spiritual superpower. But my voice issues aren't just due to a case of nerves. They're not even just due to my Midwestern good girl, people pleaser background. They're also due from years and years of studying, reading, writing, talking about spirituality and religion. So let me explain. Almost exactly a year ago, I had the privilege of interviewing the great Jungian psychoanalyst Marion Woodman. She does epic work on the sacred feminine within the psyche and the body, on the planet. If you don't know her, I would highly suggest checking her out. Something really interesting happened during the interview. Right when she started answering the first question, I started to cry, and I couldn't stop crying throughout the entire interview and even for the rest of the night. And what was interesting about this was I wasn't crying so much due to her words, because I was pretty familiar with her ideas. It was being in the presence of such a deeply spiritual woman who was also so embodied, who spoke from her belly, not just her head, and who voiced her soul so fiercely. Well, it just triggered the shit out of me on a whole bunch of levels. As Bill Plotkin says in his epic book, Soulcraft, the pull towards soul feels like an earthquake in the midst of your life. So yeah, that interview was what I call a rouge awakening for me. I woke up to the fact that I was not embodied. I did not speak from my belly, as you all can tell. And even though my favorite subject has always been the divine feminine, I realized that my life as a spiritual writer, scholar, workshop facilitator, speaker, and woman had been almost entirely focused on spirit, not on soul. Half of me was missing being the significant word and feeling here. Now, I know soul is a pretty loaded term, and you're going to hear a bunch of different interpretations of what soul means here today. I'm going to give you a few definitions that really resonated with me after this interview. So in general, the soul is known to be feminine and the spirit masculine. Marion Woodman says, "Soul to me means embodied essence, when we experience ourselves and others in our full humanity, part animal, part divine. Healing comes through embodiment of the soul. The soul in matter is what I think the feminine side of God is all about. The feminine soul is what grounds us. It loves and accepts us in our totality." Sue Monk Kidd, in her brilliant book, Dance of the Dissident Daughter, says, "When I use the term feminine soul, I'm referring to a woman's inner repository of the divine feminine, her deep source, her natural instinct, guiding wisdom and power. It is everything that keeps a woman powerful and grounded in herself, complete in herself, belonging to herself, and yet connected to all that is. Connection to this inner reality is a woman's most priceless experience." Bill Plotkin says, "The soul is our inner wildness, the intrapsychic terrain we know the least and that holds our individual mysteries." Now, Marion says most of us are disconnected from our soul. She says life is about incarnation. So you don't want to transcend your life. She says you want to move into your life. She also says the problem is too many people in our culture skip this step and go straight up to spirit. Over-spiritualization, she says, is a real danger. And for me, at the time of the interview, I was like over-spiritualized up the wazoo. So there are a few reasons why our soul has not really been given the spiritual spotlight. Not even a few. There's so many, which is a whole different conference. But for this, I want to share with you a perspective that's been really helpful for me, again, this past year. So according to some really recent work by the Kabbalist scholar and mystic Mark Gaffney, the integral philosopher Ken Wilber, Marion Woodman, and a few others, there is more than one perspective, more than one face of the divine. There's actually two faces. The first face of the divine is most often referred to as our true nature, ultimate reality. It's static, never-changing, formless, and the same for each and every one of us. The best way for us to experience this first face is through things like meditation, where we sit and we tap in and we have possibly that experience, all is one. Words and feelings that correlate to this first face are bliss, love and light, sweetness, peace, non-attachment, nothingness, calm, constant perfection. The first face represents classical enlightenment, God realization, undifferentiated illumination, and often really boring clothing choices. Now, this first face of the divine is what most mainstream Americans, whether you're a Christian, Buddhist, Jew, or yogi, or just read a lot of spiritual or self-help books, or watch a lot of Oprah, equate with spirituality. In general, this first face of the divine is taught by all these amazing, wonderful spiritual teachers that you know, like Eckhart Tolle and Byron Katie and Thich Nhat Hanh, and basically every religious tradition on the planet in one form or another, except shamanism. But here's the deal. If we only focus on this first face of the divine, we can often end up consciously or unconsciously rounding out our unique edges, nixing our soul. We can tone down our wildness, our wardrobes, our passions, and our voice, and think, well, hey now, I'm being all spiritual and enlightened and stuff. To which, the second face of the divine puckers her red lips and declares, bullshit. What has been hidden or repressed or misunderstood or expunged from most mainstream religions and spirituality is this second face of the divine. The universe's other half, and some might even say better half, depending on what's going on in their lives. You know who I'm talking about. God's wife, Buddha's Buddhette, Shiva's Shakti, Muhammad's Mrs., JC's Magdalene, L's Asherah, Great Spirit's Snuggle Bunny, our mother who aren't only in heaven, the great shebang, Yo Mama, Shishi Power, Madame Mojo, Soul Sista, the original revolutionary, the ecstatic exclamation point after all that is, the embodiment of embodiment, the seductress of the senses, the dark dame, Our Lady of Holy Holiness, the pioneer of pussy power, the most experienced lover of us all, the ever-coming reminder of raw reality, the silent roar, the sacred rage, the deviant destructress of anything that keeps you small, the angel who wears Prada, the devil who wears paradox, the virgin of Las Vegas and the whore of the Vatican, the one who makes dogma faint, the one who scares all major and most minor religions, the one who boogies in your body, the one who decorates your dreams, the one who turns your shadow into puppets, the one that mud wrestles spirit and wins, the one who is furious at what we have done to her earth, the one you were taught to mistrust, the one who begs your breath into your belly, the one who wants all of you on her dance floor, the one you never have to clean yourself up for, the one who demands your entire heart to live in and your entire life to love in, the one who misses you, the one who aches for you, the one that knows you, the one that lives for you and in you and as you. That's right, the one who can be found and the closest mirror if you wink just right.